Okay, welcome back to the 1705 podcast. Um, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a jacket, it's because I left the windows open to my room for quite a while now. But anyways, today I'm once again not joined by anyone. This is, I'm trying to, partner up with a specific group, but that's still in the works. Today I wanted to talk about a subject, or not really a subject, but a project that IB schools and in the DP program make you do. And it's something known as the Theory of Knowledge exhibition, right? I just finished that up, I sent it in, and I wanted to talk about mine because it's one of the few subjects in which you get, a measly 950 words to, whoops, talk about actual stuff that's important, which is how you consume knowledge, what you make of knowledge, and how you interpret the connection between different things in this world regarding knowledge. So, my theory, just to explain the theory of knowledge exhibition, you're supposed to pick a prompt, right? And the prompt is usually set by the school. I know that sounds kind of whack, but I don't think it's not possible for you to create your own prompt. But for example, a prompt could be like, how does culture affect knowledge? That would be a pretty crappy one. I don't think that's actually out there. I think it would be a little bit more detailed and complex than that. But then you would have to pick three different items, and preferably items that you have in person. And those three different items, you have to talk about them in relation to that prompt, and then come to a conclusion or have a discussion about how those three different objects uh, can be discussed through that prompt in different ways. So for example, how does culture affect knowledge? You can bring like a Egyptian dung beetle statue and talk about how that affected you know knowledge around the culture of Egypt. And then you can bring a later on you could bring like some sort of football jersey. I don't know, but point is, I'm here to talk about mine because it's the prompt is, does some knowledge only belong to particular communities of knowers? So pretty typical of me to pick a prompt like that. Does some knowledge belong only to particular communities of knowers? And can you guess the three different objects that I picked? Well, the first one is morals and dogma of the accepted ancient Scottish rite of Freemasonry, of course. Love saying that as well. The second one was Iron Man 2, surprisingly. And the last one was Genesis in the Tanakh, which is kind of like a Hebrew Old Testament of the Bible. So we've already talked about morals and dogma in the first episode of this podcast, and morals and dogma, of course, book written by Albert Pike in 1850, no, sorry, 1870 something. Um, it obviously, when we talk about who owns knowledge, when we talk about who owns everything, and by everything, yeah, you're talking about knowledge, because without the knowledge to make money, you can't make money. Without the knowledge to, what's going on in the world, how to manipulate things. I don't want to go into conspiracy cuckoo theories right now, but you know, the weather it's pretty easy to manipulate. One single person could probably manipulate the weather. I've seen it with my own freaking experience. It could actually happen. And I've even tried it myself. Um, okay, going off track here. Um, who owns the knowledge is who owns you and who owns the world. So when we talk about morals and dogma, that book in itself represents a huge chunk of Freemasonry, specifically Scottish Rite Freemasonry, which is probably the biggest one out there right now. Now, a couple of months back, I'd say almost a year ago now, I was very, very scared about Freemasonry, and I used to think that they were the biggest, the baddest, and the most terrifying club of elitist Illuminati, Satan worshipping people, and they're not. Okay, they are not. The real Satan worshippers are in the Vatican, in the church. Okay, wars don't happen if this one specific man doesn't approve of it. But we're gonna get into that a lot later. But even then, Freemasonry seals and contains a lot of information. A lot of it is pretty easy to come across by today, nowadays, because we have the internet now. Books have been leaked. There's even sneaky recordings that have been taken inside of the lodge with small GoPro cameras and things like that. And we understand now what the Freemasons are doing. Maybe not at the very highest top. I don't think we know much about what Skull and Bones are doing or the rituals at the Knights Templar. But we know a good chunk of what they're doing. And they express it very... Yeah, it's not really that big of a surprise, because they just tell it to us the way it is. Albert Pike himself, he says, right? And this is the quote that I always bring up. He says, the truth must be kept secret, and... No, sorry, what is it? Yeah, fictions become necessary for the people, and the truth becomes deadly to those who are not strong enough to contemplate it in all of its brilliance. The truth must be kept secret, and the masses need a teaching proportioned to their imperfect reason. That is basically the biggest way that we know that Freemasonry is a secret society, right? It's not just a fraternity, it's not just a club, it is a secret society, because you are not allowed to know, and they think that everyone else who is not initiated into Freemasonry is profane and, part of the vile multitude and not sublime wisdom. But honestly, I couldn't really care less, because it's not Freemasonry where it lies. I think Freemasonry is a path that you could take to get to that, very scary and, soul-selling like level of power and influence. And you go down a very dark path there, and a very dark rabbit hole. But then, again, this is much more simple than what I said on the first episode, because it's, again, limited by 950 words, because that's how long the exhibition should be. I know. I wanted to talk about this for ages, but... And somebody messaged me. But no, that's... This is all we have right now. Remember, certain communities of knowers, right? That the prompt. Certain communities of knowers in Freemasonry, in this case, include Nelson Wilmarth Aldrich, the guy who founded the Federal Reserve and brought all those people to Jekyll Island. If you know the story of the Federal Reserve, it was a bunch of bankers, not a bunch of federal governors. They were freaking bankers, including Paul Warburg from from Skull and Bones. I think Paul Warburg is Skull and Bones, but I'm not exactly sure. And Henry Davidson too. All J.P. Morgan, freaking bankers who, it's messed up. And that dude, Nelson Wilmarth Aldrich, was what was it? Treasury Island of I forgot where it is exactly, but I have the he was a treasurer of the Rhode Island Lodge. Yeah, that's what it was. Treasurer, by the way, if you don't know, you have to have a pretty high degree to be a treasurer of an island. So he was a very high-ranking Freemason. The globalization of science in the 1960s. I meant the 1600s, not the 1960s, but sorry, go on. For example, why is the scientific method so popular, right? Before, we used to have, alchemists and wizards and warlocks who would make wands out of Hollywood and from the holly tree, and they would go around casting spells and putting magic into everything, and they would count the stars and they would navigate through the stars until we got the popularization of the scientific method, and that was when Isaac Newton was one of the last alchemists, by the way. And then but then afterwards, we got the Royal London Society, which was in the 1600s. And who founded the Royal Society of London? Dude, Freemasons, and I think some Rosicrucians as well. I think hold on a second. Let me just pull up the source, because I got the source. Royal Society, because I don't remember any of the names, to be honest with you. Office holders and Freemasons include John Brown, a chemist, and a council member, James Douglas, a physician, William Jones, the vice president, and a council member. Yeah, so okay, I can probably link this below, but it's again, just the popularization of the scientific method is founded in Freemasonry, which used to be freaking wizards and warlocks in Rosicrucianism as well. This is the time where Rosicrucianism started publishing its manifestos and its royal wedding type deals. That's when this was all happening. Wizards and freaking warlocks and alchemists popularized the scientific method. So to all the atheists out there that say science is the only way, no. Like, it's a very important thing, but it is 100% not the only way to understand knowledge. But they've put that into your brain. Who's put that into your brain? The Royal London Society, founded by Freemasons. I'm not actually sure if the Royal London Society, put it into your brain, but they definitely popularized it, and then later it became a worldwide, how would you say, atheism became a very popular thing. But then what about also the Perusian schooling system, that all school is based off of Johann Gottlieb Fichte, 33-degree Freemason, And if you know the story of the Perusian schooling system, how Horace Mann then took it across into the U.S., and the U.S. made it mandatory, no homeschooling was allowed, and then the Rockefellers came in and put all their money to make factory workers. If you know that story, you know how messed up it is. You probably, you don't enjoy school, probably, right? And again, Freemason at the root of it. But Freemasonry, again, it's not the deepest part of the rabbit hole, I'll tell you that. But there you go, and I wrote this into the prompt. How does some knowledge only belong to certain particular communities of knowers, right? That's the question we need to ask. Then my second object that I choose was Iron Man 2 2010 Blu-ray DVD, okay? I don't know about you, but I freaking love Marvel, okay? I love Hollywood, and I love Marvel, and I love the actors built from Monarch experiments. But basically, the reason why I put Iron Man 2 is because, it is one of the biggest and probably, I think, the most well-known current example of military propaganda in Hollywood. Both Iron Man 1, 2, and I didn't write it here, but 3 as well, because I watched it afterwards when I went on a trip. I watched it with my cousin, and I was like, geez, oh my god, dude, this is even more propaganda than the second one. But okay, first off, they were both made in 2008, 2010. This is important because this was when the financial crisis was happening, and trust towards the government was starting to be questioned a little bit because for this whole time you had the 2% inflation type deal that was securing confidence in the economy until 2007 financial crisis happened. Bam, stagflation. Was it stagflation or was it just inflation? It had to be stagflation, right? was this is embarrassing. Hold on. Stagflation. The Great Recession. Oh, it was a recession. Might not have been yeah, it wasn't stagflation. All right, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, it was a big recession, and again, problems, questioning authority. But then these major blockbuster films, Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, came out. Beautiful. Um, but here is the thing, right? Because, first off, you just have to look at the movies and kind of think, right? Iron Man 2, right? Let's look at Iron Man 2 specifically, because I don't remember what happened in Iron Man 1 at all. But Iron Man 2, I remember that there was this dude, Ivan Vanko, which was the bad guy. And he was the Russian bad guy. And it was the Russian guy against the American guy. Two industrialists fighting for what? To make the best military equipment, right? To make the best suit, the best weapons. And who ends up winning? Well, obviously, the USA, right? The Iron Man. Let's not forget what happened in the 80s, right? In the Cold Soviet War between the USA and Russia. You know, again, competitions for science and military weapons and things like that, and they ended up creating a crap ton of nuclear bombs, and they ended up faking the moon landing. um, Again, I don't want to go into any cuckoo conspiracy theories, so I'm not going to go into that. But um, the movie resembles that just as much, and then you realize not only that, but it was funded by the military in order to edit the script. You don't get privileges of being funded by the military, by the Pentagon, without having a DoD approved, Department of Defense approved script. People have to, the actors have to fit military grooming standards and age requirements. They have to follow. Yeah, they had to edit the script to make the the FBI look more favorable. During that one scene where Tony Stark is in court and he's trying to, get his weapons out or whatever. And it's so insane because people constantly talk about, all war is bad, and there's like these war industries where people are profiting off of war industries, but then they'll watch Iron Man and they'll be like, dude, Iron Man is goated. Edits of Iron Man everywhere, when the dude was literally making, and it's in the movie, he's literally in a trial making them, not making them, but fighting for the right to make them, military weapons and profiting off of them heavy. But in the end, he reaches a how would you say, eventually, they allow him to make the weapons. And why? Because in the end, he saves the universe, right? The USA of American, Tony Stark, the industrialist who profits off of wars and weapons, saves the universe when Thanos comes and freaking snaps his fingers and everybody dies. Who's the savior? United States of America. In the entire universe. The entire freaking universe. You have planets, right? Probably Nibiru is out there, right? There's reptilians on freaking Mars or something. But no, the person who saves the entire infinite universe from Thanos is the industrialist, military profiter from United States of America. That is the finest piece of propaganda. And see, the thing is, people don't realize it, but then they go back to, when was it? Hold on. The 1942, right? The Office of War Information was created and licensed like about hundreds of films. All of them complete USA military propaganda, just like Iron Man 2. And people look back on that, they look at it in their history, if they even do. I don't think they do, but They'll look back at like Nazi propaganda and all these things. Uh, you know, Edward Bernays. Remember, if you guys, if any of you guys, I don't think any of you guys do, but if any of you guys had my TikTok, there was this one time where I talked about Edward Bernays and how he was the father of propaganda. Edward Bernays was, I think, at the head of the Office of War Information. I'm pretty sure. Even if he wasn't, it's still a powerhouse for entertainment, or was a powerhouse for entertainment in the 1940s, where World War II was happening, where they were sending people off to die. They couldn't think for themselves. You never have free will if what you're doing is watching the movies in Hollywood without looking at it through a third perspective, right? I think that's called shadow work. That's called transmutation. When you see things from a different perspective, like, oh, why are they telling me this? And you learn the language of symbols and everything else, you realize, oh, that's why they're telling me this. Iron Man 1 and 2. And you know what? What's crazy? Not even Iron Man 1 and 2. It's like every single movie that has a bunch of tanks and helicopters and, destruction scenes of the city and all of these different things, right? All of them are funded by the Department of Defense. You can go right now, if you have a good movie idea, to the Department of Defense website and try to get funding from them, right? And equipment from them to make movies. Why? Why is the military that's supposed to be protecting the country, protecting this whole company, which is USA, they're trying to protect it. Why are they loaning this out to freaking movies? Isn't that just stupid? These big guys who are supposed to be, the tough guys with guns who defend the country. No, they're giving their stuff out towards the circus because they know that the people aren't aware. They aren't awake when they are in the circus. They just sit back and they let things come to them. I went to the cinema about 2 months ago, for the first time in like a very long time, and I got my popcorn. I sat in front of the programming machine and I looked around and I saw everyone with their popcorn intaking the information being put out. It was Inside Out 2. Of course, father figure, always an idiot, right? You have The Amazing World of Gumball, you have The Simpsons, you have Family Guy, you have American Dad, you have Peppa Pig, all of these different shows where the mom is the normal one and the dad is an absolute idiot, and then I was just sitting there going, what the heck? Why is it when I forgot the names already, but the girl from Inside Out 2 comes back home, the mom is like, what do you mean? It was fine. You're not going to tell me anything more about your trip? Right? When they zoom inside of her head. And then the father thinks the same thing, but then the freaking emotions or whatever inside of the head, as if emotions exist inside of your head. He goes, what? Football. He goes, football. Whatever. I honestly, my acting isn't too good right now, but that's what was being said in the movie. So imagine then we changed from that from that whole theme now to themes of war and battle and all of these galactic wars. Who wins? The USA. Who from the USA? The industrial militarist who, fought against synthetic dictators from the Middle East in Iron Man 3, just like you cannot actually think that a Muslim dude was listening and had a bunch of anime in his computer drive, had a Wii, and sang Poker Face by Lady Gaga. And you know who will tell you that? Who will tell you that, yeah, that dude was completely an inside CIA agent who was put up by the CIA to to act like it was some dude actually in the Middle East and in Al Qaeda sending 2 planes. You know who will tell you, yes, that dude was a synthetic dictator? The movie Iron Man 3 and the directors of Iron Man 3. They laid it out for you right there. And the American superhero that defeated the Russians, or the Russian evil bad guy, saves the universe. Universe master. Let's go again. Department of Defense. Sorry. Office of War Information. They did this, and you look back to it and you go, wow, this is propaganda. But you don't realize it when it's happening right now to you. Why is the military spending its money on garbage like movies when they could be spending it on, I don't know, rebuilding Ukraine or something? Because they know the importance of the circus. And without shaping the minds of their soldiers, and not just their soldiers, in the USA. Because Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a franchise throughout the entire freaking world. And it's everywhere. Little kids watch it, and they don't know what the heck is going on. But subliminally and subconsciously, when they grow up, they're going to have those memories instilled into their head. And if they don't check it out once they're older and reflect on these thoughts, what's going to happen? You don't become aware of yourself. Every single time you watch a series, every single time you are, scrolling through the internet and you see a reel with The Simpsons in it. Why? Why are they doing what they're doing? Why did they make the shows that they are making? Because it's all it's all either symbology, it's all predicting the future for, avoiding karmic retribution, or it's all brainwashing. And I think it's all three together most of the time. So yeah, just that's why I chose Iron Man 2. But again, like Transformers, Top Gun, all the movies with military production, all of them are funded by the DoD and have to meet the DoD approved certificate, which can only be attained if they, make a script that is according with what the military wants. So every single movie, blockbuster, major hit, it's monitored and licensed by a military with certain agendas. Just saying. And sometimes it's not just, that the movie has this type of propaganda. Sometimes there's literally been campaigns, literal campaigns, military recruitment campaigns sponsored by movies like X-Men. There was an X-Men campaign, military campaign. Like Captain Marvel, there was a Captain Marvel campaign. So be freaking wary of the stuff that you consume. And music is included. Actually, you know what? I want to talk about music. I want to talk about music before we go to the last part, which is Genesis and the Tanakh. I would say music is probably even more powerful than movies. Movies, yes, they 100% are extremely powerful when you shape the minds of the subconscious, unawakened people. But music can even affect the awakened people, because everything in this world is a frequency. You look around, everything has a vibration. Everything has a frequency, including sound. Sound is the alteration of frequency. It is a force, right? There's how much of this world can we see? How much of the light spectrum can we see? 0.0035%. And it doesn't begin to explain our descent. That rhymed as well. I'm going to put that into a song. They understanding what you can see doesn't mean you understand everything. And there's a lot more vibrations that you cannot see or perceive even that are going around, right? Imagine if your eyes could pick up the most lowest waves ever. You would be able to literally see radio waves emitting out from your microwave. If you could see very very high frequencies like gamma rays, you would be able to see the way in which phones and Wi-Fi connects with different devices. But you can't. And the same way that you can't do that, there are even more vibrations that do not fall into the light spectrum because they transcend the physical and they're ethereal, right? Astral. I don't want to go into that right now because that takes a lot more explanation. But your words are extremely powerful because if you look back to the monad and you have to listen to the podcast episode, the previous one. If you look at the previous episode and you understand that the first conscious frequency from the source created everything we know and understand today, if that thing is consciousness, then the entire universe comes from that one source. That's why praying is such an important part throughout every single religion, because you are saying things, you are thinking things, just like thoughts. Thoughts are also vibrations inside of your head that you receive or that you culminate. All of it ripples out through the universe, right? And eventually towards the monad, right? Because everything is the monad. Or God. God is a bit easier to understand. So if this entire universe is consciousness, because it comes from a consciousness, it means it is conscious. And everything you say is attributed with thoughts that you think. Language is a connection between thoughts and ideas. And you're connecting it to certain symbols. Is somebody viewing my... Oh, no, never mind. It is connection between different thoughts and symbols. Through symbols. And every time you say things, you are spell casting because you are putting these vibrations out into the world. Thoughts and ideas. I could think of a book, the concept of a book, and saying the word book puts it in a language so that everyone understands what I am thinking and the thought which I am imagining. It's more of an imagination than an actual thought. So, and another thing. When you talk about collective consciousness and how everyone's mind is vibrating at a certain frequency together at the same time. Well, over billions of people know what the word book means in the English language. And, in different languages it would be the same. So people are thinking of thoughts regarding a certain word all collectively, which gives that word or that thought the power that it should have, right? If I come up with a new word for book, like I don't know, let's say neck. That's so bad. Let's say plec, right? Just some random word. To refer to the concept and thought of a book, it wouldn't be as powerful as saying book, because that's only real to me. Meanwhile, the book is real to a billion different minds who are, who can understand that frequency and who can, visualize that frequency and later on even materialize that frequency into the 3D world. I'm going into very meta stuff right now, but the point is your words are important. That's why I don't swear, right? I don't use curse words because it is, or I avoid at the least trying to say as very little curse words as possible, or at the very least I become conscious of when I do use those curse words. If I am reading it off of a dictionary, I don't mind saying curse words. But if I'm just speaking, I'm not going to be, just carelessly saying out words because those words will put me into a low vibration. If there's no need to say a curse word, don't say it, because it does put you into a lower vibration. Because that curse word is associated collectively by the entire, collective consciousness that understands the English language, it is associated with bad frequencies, lower frequencies of hatred, or being vulgar, being you should know. So music then combines words, right? And I'm talking about, of course, modern pop music, not necessarily soundtracks, or it is technically all music, but not music with lyrics. Lyrics are very important because they are the frequency that you put off into the world. Then you combine that with a beat, right? A beat is used in hypnotism. That's not even a joke. It's literally, it is the biggest psyop ever when you use a beat, because it's putting you into a state of repeat, 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 repeat. That's what they use during hypnotism. That's not even a joke. They do that in hypnotism. When you look at binaural beats for, eye dosing, for example. I don't know if anyone remembers eye dosing. That was a huge thing in the early 20s or 2010s. I did try it, but I was never part of the craze. I tried it like years later. It's always, beats that change. Why? Because you're trying to get into a state of hypnosis. And then of course they combine that with different frequencies, like the instruments that are playing, or the ad libs, whatever. And the most important thing about lyrics is that they rhyme. Rhyming lyrics are the most important, because when you are trying to put emphasis onto a point, you want the same literal frequency, right? Not up to interpretation, but literal, actual frequency of the sound wave to be the same. Which is why if I want to say, Bugatti with a Ferrari, Bugatti, Ferrari, you are putting emphasis into that same vibration. Bugatti, Ferrari, same frequency, and you're making it powerful. That's why when you do spell casting, right? I mean, music is technically spell casting at a higher degree than just normal talking. You are usually, you need to rhyme, right? Because rhyming just makes that frequency go, be emphasized and solidified a lot more. Which, yeah, so rhyming is very important. So if you listen to music about wanting money, wanting, cars and bitches, and all of these different things that, worship Saturn, worship the material, worship things that aren't important, you're going to be in that state, because you're being not just, consuming such words. I go to class and people use disgusting, vulgar language all the time. It's very hateful. People say, F you for no reason, like for no reason at all, because it's their, their language. That's just how they are. It's not even that they're rude. It's not even that they're angry. It's just they use those words, but then they lose their meaning, and they don't know that they're, constantly setting up themselves a state of lower vibration. It's yeah, it's but then when you're listening to music, that you've got that hypnotizing beat, it feels good, right? Which makes you want to dance. And that's why, yeah, a lot of the music that is put out nowadays by freaking whatever Playboy Cardi and all these, I mean, Playboy Cardi and what's her name, Ice Spice, all of these new rappers. Yeah, okay, that's a bit extreme, right? We're not we're not gonna, I don't think anyone's gonna debate that, yeah, that stuff is bad for you. But just other stuff as well, right? Like, I'm not even gonna talk about it, because it is quite ridiculous. But then you listen to music with good lyrics that are actually freaking potent and powerful, mean something. I should actually, I'm gonna make a song. I'm gonna make a song, and I'm gonna freaking put the example out there of how you make or what good music would sound like. I'm not good with mixing and matching, but I'm gonna make a freaking song. Yep, yep, it's coming, it's coming. So okay, uh, that's happening. That's music. That's Iron Man 2 and movie and propaganda. Who owns knowledge? The people that make that. One last thing about music. 1950s, the Rockefeller Foundation changed everything from, all the instruments and all the mixing and matching devices for recording music and stuff. They turned the frequency from 439 hertz or 436 hertz, or I think it was maybe 450 hertz. I'm not sure, but they changed it to 440 hertz, which is typically when you look at music that's from religious origin, chants, orthodox chants, or Buddhist type of melodies and meditation mixes and stuff. You're gonna see, if you search that up on YouTube, it's always gonna be 439 hertz for frequency activation, or 369 hertz, or 936 hertz, or 999 hertz. Why is it always that number? 444 hertz. 444,000 descendants that leave the plane of the physical. Yeah, so here I messed up again. I meant 144. 100, not 444, but yeah. These hertz always add up to Nikola Tesla theory, the law and power of 3. 3, 6, and 9, sacred numbers of the number scale. It always adds up to either 3, 6, or 9, and I don't know. It's pretty weird that the Rockefeller Foundation changed everything from a frequency that added up to 3, 6, or 9, and changed it to, I think it added up to 9. It changed it to 450, which 440, which adds up to 8 or 8. And you look at the digits, exclude the 8. Anyways, there's probably some pictures that you can pull up as well. 440 hertz versus 450 hertz, and you're gonna see that the 450 hertz has like beautiful harmony. The 440 hertz like this crappy soup of dung. So be careful for the music that you listen to. They control you. And then finally, the last prompt that I looked into was Genesis and the Tanakh, and this one was a little bit biased. It was a little bit biased and also kind of rushed. I did it on the last day. It was due to something that I heard from historian and theologist Jordan Maxwell. I kind of took what he said and put it into a little bit more academic terms. Well, what he said in his podcast, I'm sure what he has on his website is very academic, but what he said in his podcast, I can't come up to school and be like, there's no such thing as the Holy Land. Jerusalem and Israel, these places aren't holy. There's nothing holy about Jerusalem and Israel. The only thing that's holy about them is the stories. They're full of holes. Right? I can't be going around saying that. But what I did say was I talked about the older versions of the Bible, right? The Hebrew Bible, and the modern versions of the Bible, right? Like the King James Bible. In the beginning, and Genesis specifically, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:01. And this was the King James Bible. I think it also has to do with, or I think that's the same way that it's written in the first English Bible that was created in Antwerp. Yep. But then let's look at the Hebrew Bible, right? The Hebrew Bible says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. And you can search up the word for Elohim in Hebrew. It's a very specific, Hebrew type of writing. But the thing is, Hebrew Elohim referred to a multiple type, a multiple plural set of gods, right? And you can talk about, the 12 different gods of Elohim. You can talk about 777 Elohim. You can talk about, Elohim is referring to the three, the Trinity, and how God is actually one and three. We'll talk about that later. But in soul essence, it is not the same. It is not the same as saying, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Not the same thing. Because one means one God, the other means multiple gods. And then later on, in actually even modern versions of the Bible, you have Genesis 3:22, right? Skull and bones, by the way. 3:22. Now Yahweh Elohim said, "Behold, man has become like one of us, having the ability to know good and evil." Man has become like one of us. Does anything sound weird to you about that? Man has become like one of us, becoming anything weird at all? Who is us? Why is the monotheistic God, the monad, saying us? Because look, either God is one, or God is infinity, or God is zero. None of those three things that I just mentioned, can be said us. If you say infinity, right, you wouldn't refer to an infinite amount. If you yourself were an infinite amount of different versions of yourself, right? Infinite. And you yourself are infinity. You would not refer to yourself as us. Doesn't make sense. Because you would be referring to yourself. I is what you use when you're talking about infinity, or one, like my name is Daniel, I, or zero, right? Anyways, one technically is infinity when you look at the monad, the source, and the creator. I would say the source is kind of like what zero is, and the creator then is one. And from there on out, you have infinity, which is every single contingent existence that has happened since the beginning. See, I'm even rhyming when I'm not even intending to. Because when you get into this frequency, you keep hammering the same frequencies out into the physical, and they manifest. But what? Yeah, okay. I'm reading here to see what is being said. Yeah, Elohim describes himself as plural, saying us, right? Then of course Jordan Maxwell in his lecture there, he ended up talking about how Sumerian gods and the Anunnaki were somehow involved with the creation of the human species. I do not believe. I don't think it is possible, and especially after seeing and learning in biology class some of the basics of evolution, right? We looked at evolution. We looked at why DNA synthesis happens, and how there could be several mutations that happen during that process. And those several mutations can either benefit the species or not. And throughout millions of years, that species ends up adapting to its environment, and there's environmental adaptation, and blah, 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 blah. And humans came out. Yeah, but then I asked my teacher, so does that mean that evolution means that it's going to grow 100%? Like something is going to evolve into something more powerful? No, it's just an adaptation to the environment that you're in. That's, biology. When you look at the entire evolution of the universe and physics and metaphysics and things that go beyond, it is mostly about, just growth. I'd say the monad is constantly growing as well. I would still not say that humans came from, just trying to grow and be more. Yes, it benefits us that we know how to use and forge weapons to kill mammoths, it does benefit us that we know how to harness fire. It does. It benefits us. But you're telling me that mutations made that? You're telling me that it's mutations and that it was completely random that this ended up happening? See, that is where it becomes very difficult to believe. Because the human species, right? There's been species before humans that have lived hundreds of millions of years more than primates. And you're telling me that from primates, we go from stupid ooga booga all the way to advanced man. That to me, I then link with ancient Sumerian mythology and all the different mythology that has been put out in every single religion ever. The Bible included, Book of Enoch, Book of Teaching. And yeah, why is the Bible saying us? Why is Elohim? Could it be the Anunnaki? Could it be something else? I don't know. But that created man in God's image. God's image. Yahweh's image. Our image. Whose image? Some freaking extraterrestrial life's image, probably. You then look at experiments done from the Gateway Experience. The dude who created the Gateway Experience at the CIA talked to an astral entity, and that astral entity started talking about loosh farming. When you feel doubt, when you feel scared, when you feel like you are, depressed, when you feel in this bad state, I want you to know something. Monsters, Inc., the movie, has a realm of monsters that take energy away from you when you're at that state. Monsters, Inc. The monster with the green monster with the one eye, yeah, taking your energy. CIA experiment master, I can't remember his name, but the dude who set up the Gateway Experience, I read the whole thing, by the way, talked about loosh farming and entities that farm for your loosh. And what is your loosh? They are electromagnetic reactions that happen when animals die and enter. But then, humans later are also able to produce it when they're feeling down, when they're feeling like crap. They're farming you for your loosh. The Matrix, you are a battery for extra dimensional beings outside of what you can see, outside from what your reality is, right? They say it's AI and that it's a physical kind of yes, but it's kind of hard to explain if you haven't seen it yourself. I've been around some really crappy beings that laughed at me because I couldn't get out the Matrix. I'm not kidding, by the way. Like I got to a very deep point where I finally was about to astral project, but then everything came to silence and people were laughing at me. Deities were laughing at me. Spirits were laughing at me. Because they were farming me for loosh. As they are with you every time you feel like a little crapazoid. And as they will when you die. And so, when you look at the story of the Anunnaki farm you for, or created the human species for what? For the collection of resources and things from Earth so that they could evolve their civilization in Nibiru, whatever. Again, everything is a metaphor. Maybe it's not exactly that. Maybe even what the dude from the CIA was saying wasn't exactly true, and it is a metaphor that needs to be decoded. But here's the thing. Either ways, this is messed up that everyone who is Christian right now is reading the Bible and do not know that the hidden origins of the Bible have hidden scriptures that talk about a civilization before Adam and Eve, by the way. They talk about, and even then, like, Adam and Eve themselves are technically a metaphor, right? who was Lilith, right? You have to ask yourself that question too. Who was Lilith, and why did Adam survive, and why was Eve made of Adam's rib, right? So yeah, then they went to some crazy freaking conspiracies. Mr. Jordan Maxwell, he went to some crazy things that I don't know if I can really endorse right now. But Bigfoot sightings. Ever since I was a little kid, ever since I was really small, I have always been super freaking fascinated by cryptozoology, and I was like, yo, people are searching for this lost monster. They're looking for the Loch Ness monster, and oh, what is all this stuff? And it's only until now that I've actually seen them. Like I've felt the touch of, yeah, cryptids. Let's say I've seen the cryptids. I've heard the cryptids. I've felt the cryptids. Uh, so yeah, what is the original Bible hiding from us? I think that's the main thing to take from that. I went into this whole discussion. I can't even remember why, but yeah, the Bible is, and here's how I'll end it off. You can research the Kabbalion, learn the seven principles of the universe, and the seven universal laws. You can read alchemy. You can read the Kabbalah. You can read Kabbalah and learn how different things work. But the thing about the Bible is, it holds all of the information, all of it, to the smallest microcosmic realities, to the largest realities, to even your own biology, because everything is as above, so below. It holds all of it, all the principles from the cosmos and the stars. It holds it all. And people don't realize because they've gotten confused, even though they've been told already the truth. What is the truth? The Bible is the greatest story of all time. The greatest story, but not the greatest historical recollection of events. It is not an archive for real historical events. There's no way that you can prove it. Oh, but 500 people saw Jesus Christ rise into the sky. Paul, one of the apostles of Christ, is the one that claims that 500 people saw him after his death, resurrected. Paul said that. 500 people did not come out and say that and put it into different historical archives. When you start to see that the same story has been written over 16 different times, across different cultures, across different times, you will see and realize that the Bible, it's absolutely 100% a metaphorical story for how one should live their life. The Bible is basic instructions before leaving existence. I think it was something like that I saw. But yeah, research the Bible properly, understand the symbols, understand the events that have happened, understand why Solomon's temple is so important, and then you look at Freemasonry, Yakin, look at absolutely everything, all the different religions, and you will eventually come to the realization of what it all really means. So yeah, that was my theory of knowledge. I didn't get to speak this much because it's again 950 words. But there you go. And be on the lookout for that song, yo. It's gonna be freaking epic. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.